like it went away in the third quarter, but they almost won it by 30.
Yeah. I think we learned a lot about mid-major teams.
Yeah,
like
they're not good.
like just like this. The South Dakota run makes no sense to me. Creighton makes sense to me last year, but the South Dakota run, looking back now, I guess they had size.
Yeah,
Size.
they did.
But yeah, I mean, Florida Gulf Coast, just don't ever, like, what's the point of having a team if your goal is to make this, the second round of the NCAA tournament? You're never going to make it farther than this. It's not going to happen.
They beat
Like-
Washington State though.
Washington State sucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like the worst 5 seed in my memory, honestly.
Yeah.
So bad.
I mean, Iowa State. No, you're right. Washington State's way worse than them.
Washington State's really bad.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, I mean, ready to go when you are, and then I can always edit.
Yeah.
So.
All right. I'll just count us down from like 5,
Mhm.
so it's easier to find it. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone. Back again with more March Madness talk on the Hoops Stats Podcast Network. Megan Gauer here with Calvin Wetzel and Dano Mataya. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Yeah. Time's flying by. I will say, disappointed in some of the mid-major teams this year. Hate that we don't have any in the Sweet 16. And no double-digit seeds, but I mean, Miami shocked the world the day after Ole Miss. I'd say shocked the world, but I felt that was possible. Yeah, I will never be able to rationalize Indiana losing at Assembly Hall to this Miami team. It just won't happen.
Doesn't make sense. It makes so much less sense than Stanford losing to Ole Miss. So much less sense.
Yeah, it really does. Shocking.
I truly think that Indiana team is one of the best teams I've seen in like the last 5 years. I mean, basically since that's just awful. I want to just. I know Gabe and Christy recapped everything, but I had to get it out there that I'm so disappointed in Indiana.
I mean, I do think outside of South Carolina, Stanford, UConn, I don't know if we've had, outside of those 3 programs, a better team than this Indiana team in quite a while.
Yeah, maybe Notre Dame.
Probably going back to the Notre Dame team that won the championship. That's probably the last time the
Exactly.
team was this good outside of those 3 programs.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not putting Terry on the hot seat. I'm not doing it. Also, shout out. This is a big week for travels to be trending on Twitter, because clear as day travel on a game-winning shot, forever tainted. But congrats to Miami.
This is why it's the 3 of us and not Gabe on here, because we
would just only hear about Miami if we had Gabe on this podcast.
Gabe and Dana would just be going at it, and Megan and I we wouldn't even be needed.
Yeah, somewhere on press row of that UConn game, though, during the end of the Miami game, you see me and Alexa Felfo just absolutely screaming our heads off at my screen. And Kathy Oriema was sitting behind us and came over and watched half of the last quarter with us.
Well, I'm so glad that people took. I mean, it's great, right? Upsets are great. We shouldn't be mad. We're having some of the best upsets ever, and then UConn looks back to normal. So that's give or take, whatever you like. But we have a fresh start. I love these matchups.
Before we get into previewing, sorry, I have to make one more point that I was right about Villanova and UCLA. No. I will skip the rest. We don't need to do any more recapping, but I just had to remind you all that I was right.
Yeah. Our Cleveland State love was so dumb. In retrospect. And Sacramento State, just couldn't make shots. Cleveland State didn't look like they belong on the same court. I'll say that.
There's no reason why we don't ever listen to Megan is the takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll still be coming in with hot takes in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, but what I think I'll side with Megan more times than not.
Blindly writing all of Megan's picks from here on out.
All right, let's get into previewing, though. Should we just go around the bracket in like a circle here? Start in Greenville 1.
I mean, we can do that, or we can go in order of time.
Oh, that's fair. I forgot that we have times already. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go in order of days.
Speaking of the team that took down the Giant in Cleveland State, Villanova.
That's a big time win.
Villanova's a 4-point favorite, and game's at 2:30, which is weird. I don't like for a Sweet 16 game, in my opinion, but 2:30 Eastern time in Greenville. I see this game going two ways. I see Miami winning a close game or Villanova winning by 10. And based on the Big East performance overall, I guess that's an okay thing to say. I don't know. I just lean Villanova here.
Yeah, I think Villanova's going to be set up well for this matchup because they played enough like difficult teams and seen enough. I feel like the Big East this makes sense. Like has a lot of different styles of teams within the conference, so they've seen a lot of different things. So they've seen a tough defense like Miami's going to bring. And then even with Miami's defense is really good, but I feel like still like the Maddie Siegrist thing here is like how do you guard Maddie Siegrist and Miami's not going to score a ton.
Yeah. Cal, how many field goals did Miami hit in the second half? 6?
6 total shots. Yep.
That's all they hit in the second half of the Indiana
game. The game winner for Destiny Harden, which was a travel, by the way, as we talked about. So it should have been 5, but that was the 6th. Yep.
Lived at the free throw line. Lived. And I want to say, I don't remember Villanova being a team that fouls too much.
I don't think they are, and I'm looking for the number to support that. But yeah, like Dulcie tends to get in foul trouble in the low post, but outside of that, like I don't think it's really something that they've struggled with much.
No, and Miami usually doesn't get to the line like that. Like that was an anomaly. Everything about that game was an anomaly. Like Miami's not a team that draws a bunch of fouls. They're not a team. They shot, I think it was 8 for 14 from 3, like 57% from 3. Like they're not going to do that again. I just like Gabe's going to listen to this. And he's going to chew me out, and that's fine.
Did we lose Calvin?
I think we lost Calvin.
He'll come back. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm with Calvin there. I'd be hard pressed to be convinced that Miami will end up winning this game. Also, there's probably a big come down factor, like you just pull off one of the greatest upsets ever on a game winning buzzer beater almost. And I think Villanova is just all business at this point. Like I know the world is starting to talk about Maddie Siegrist more than like probably, you've talked about her for the past, 4 years, but she's just so unstoppable. Like, and I feel like she's shooting well right now.
Yeah, she's shooting the ball really well. And then they also got, I think what was key in that Florida Gulf Coast game was it wasn't all Maddie Siegrist because Lucy Olson had 20-something points, a near triple-double, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. Like, she just went off with them as well. And I think that's the key for them, like, winning in these next, like, if they're going to win 2 more games, if you said, like, and make it to a Final Four, is they need, like, that kind of contribution from Lucy Olson or someone else. Someone else has to be scoring, and they're a much better team when it's not just Maddie going off for 35 and you're getting something big from someone else too.
Yeah, I expect it to be low scoring, kind of a grungy matchup, but I think I take Villanova there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anyone's surprised to hear me say that, but I think that, Nova's got maybe a bit of an easier path than we thought they would have to an Elite Eight with that upset.
Yeah, getting to that, or also getting to that Elite Eight, going into, I think this might be my favorite matchup of this round. LSU Utah. Right after that game, I'm so pumped for.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one. I think you've got, a really high power offense in Utah. We saw them struggle against Princeton with their threes, but generally a team that makes a lot of threes. And then LSU has just been so good with Angel Reese, especially. What did she have in the first round? Was like 25, or maybe it was the second round game, but she had 25 points and like 24 rebounds or something absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and she had a 30, 33, or 34 point triple or double in round one. But that round one LSU team, even with Angel going off, does not beat Utah, in my opinion. I think that the game against Michigan was the best I've seen LSU's defense look all year. And it wasn't just, Angel Reese. Like, Kateri Poole absolutely shut down Leah Brown. I don't think I've seen a worse Leah Brown game in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah,
And
I thought they played really well in that game. Yeah, I thought they played really well defensively in that game. I thought they kind of came out a little flat against Hawaii. Like, Hawaii gave them more trouble than Hawaii probably should have. And not that it was ever like in question that LSU was going to win that game, but just that like Hawaii was able to hang around a little bit more than I would have expected. But they kind of seemed to have a shift in that mentality going into that Michigan game and really came out with a different edge than they did in the first round.
For sure. I have a question for you, and this is no slight on South Carolina. I think South Carolina is easily maybe the most talented team in the country, but obviously the largest in terms of size. But is Utah the second, if not the best, skilled team that LSU has faced all year?
Possibly. I guess it depends how you view Tennessee versus like in Tennessee right now. Maybe not like the Tennessee team they played a month ago, but Tennessee right now.
March Tennessee doesn't miss any shots.
Yeah, because March Tennessee is looking really good. So, but I think it's easy to say if it's not the second best team, it's the third best team that they've played so far this season. So yeah, I think that part is interesting. Like, how does LSU respond to that? Because like we've seen them not respond well against South Carolina. They didn't play well in that game. And then Tennessee, the non-March Tennessee, they beat at home, though it was a pretty close game. And then March Tennessee, they gave up a 17-point lead to in the SEC tournament and lost.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it definitely does depend on what type of Tennessee or type of LSU team we see in this matchup, in my opinion. Like, I don't think I think Utah coming in consistent will play their game. And, if they run into a buzzsaw that is like Angel Reese killing them on the boards, because Alyssa Peely is, I think, only 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah.
Like, that's your leading rebounder. You gotta have everybody on the boards like consistently. Who do you take in this matchup?
I kind of feel like it's gonna be LSU, as much as it pains me to say that. I just Utah hasn't been a great rebounding team this year, and I think in particular against LSU, that's going to hurt you. And then they're also not the best like defensively either. It's like those two things that LSU does better, and I think we're seeing a theme here in some of these upsets that like the stronger defenses are winning.
Gosh. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'm with you. I would like, as much as I'd like to take Utah. I just think LSU's got too much size. We're not saying that Utah can't come out and shoot.
They've got to hit threes. Yeah. You got to hit like your 14 threes. If they hit 14 threes, they'll win the game. But you got to do that.
Which they're more than capable of doing.
Yes. Yeah. They're definitely capable of it. But I feel like when you live or die by the three, it's kind of like if they go down, you're great, and if they don't, it's gonna be a rough night.
West Coast team also playing on the East Coast could hurt a little bit. Definitely need to see some foul trouble, I guess. something to go right for them. All right, moving to what, Seattle 4. Yeah, confusing still. Retweet your original thought about renaming the regions. All right, Colorado, Iowa. Iowa struggled.
Yeah. This game is so interesting to me because it's almost like the same version of like the game that Iowa just played in the round of 32. Like statistically, Colorado and Georgia are pretty similar teams. I think they're both top 15 defenses. Colorado's offense is actually a little bit better. So it could be an interesting matchup. And Iowa, like you said, really struggled in that Georgia game.
I don't know why it feels like an easier matchup though. Maybe it's just
I agree.
I'm so blinded by diamond battles. And I also can't fathom putting Colorado in my Elite Eight, you know?
Yeah.
But I will say the offense is looking a lot better. They went through like a lull of like 8 minutes in that Monday night game where they didn't score. Probably should have lost to Duke, to be honest. Yeah, I guess you can say that with any overtime game. But also Iowa could have very easily lost to Georgia at home for the second straight year. And I don't know if we call Caitlin Clark's game against Georgia a good game. She still ended with like 20 and 10, I guess.
12 or something.
Yeah, great for fourth quarter. But overall, I don't think that was a typical good Caitlin Clark game. And I mean, they guarded with Jalen Sherrod, but I don't see a world where Iowa doesn't win this game by 10.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably going to win it. And I agree. I said something similar somewhere yesterday that I just feel like even though like statistically Georgia and Colorado are basically the same team, that there's just like an X factor of like having a player like Diamond Battles that like is going to pride herself on trying to shut down Caitlin Clark. And I don't know. And maybe it's just because I've watched more of UCF and Georgia, but I just don't know if there's a player on Colorado that's going to be at that level of intensity going into that matchup. So I kind of feel like I was going to win this too, but at the same time, now you're not at home. Like I think Carver Hawkeye is a really hard place to play. And the thing that Iowa did well enough to win that Georgia game was like everybody hit shots. I think kind of Warnock hit a bunch of threes. They had kind of a lot of threes from all of their role players, and I think had they not gotten that, they lose that game. So I think that's the other key piece is I think we've seen it more from them down the stretch, but they've got to have games where it's not just Caitlin Clark and Monica Cesano. That's not enough anymore to win.
Yeah. Gabby Marshall's been like just a revelation. He's, I don't know what her numbers are over the past month, but they got to be staggering. All right. So we're taking Iowa to advance there. I also love this game. This is so fascinating. Ole Miss, Louisville. I pour one out for my Texas Longhorns. Never led at home.
Yeah.
I was looking this up, Megan. I was looking up these stats. They had 5 assists that game. And that's the lowest at home against a non-conference team that Texas has had in our Hoop Stats era. And I think the third time since I think the last time was 2012 or 2013, where a Big 12 team had less than 5 assists in an NCAA tournament game. Like,
yikes.
Defense was rolling, but like their pace was amazing. Like Rory was never able to pick up full court because one, they weren't scoring, but they were just getting the ball out and going. Like it just felt like a team that was way more energized and played with a sense of urgency. So I mean, Louisville looks damn good, but also Ole Miss defense is, what they did against Gonzaga was historic, and then holding Stanford under 50 at home, I think, is also remarkable. So I don't know. I would love to hear where you lean with this.
Yeah, I think you've got two really good defenses here. The thing that concerns me about Ole Miss is like it was enough against Stanford, so I mean it was enough, but they really struggled to score the basketball in that fourth quarter. I think they made one field goal in that entire fourth quarter, and I don't think that that's going to be enough against Louisville. I think they're going to have to score the ball a little bit more. I don't know that you're going to hold Louisville to under. I mean, I wouldn't have said you were going to hold Stanford to under 50 points, so who knows? But I don't think you're going to hold Louisville to under 50 points. I think especially like Haley Van Leeuwen is just so good and kind of thrives in this kind of March environment. So she's going to get hers, and I think you're going to have to score a little bit more against them to win. The other thing about Ole Miss in that upset is I think they shot the three ball a lot better than they normally do in the first half. And maybe they can keep that going, but I think that was a big part of it. That win as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a big reason why Drake played Louisville so tight is they just could not miss from three, right? And Ole Miss basically for 40 minutes against Gonzaga and then 20 minutes against Stanford was kind of hitting at that same rate. I don't know. To me, it's like whatever team hits 60 first wins. But yeah, I hate to ever not support Coach Yo. So in my heart, I'll be rooting for Ole Miss, but I think I lean with you on Louisville just having more weapons, and really just trusting them to score more. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong.
Yeah. And yeah, I really like Coach Yo too, but I think also Jeff Walz has the experience in these games, and he's played in a lot of these Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games. Just kind of knows how to get his team to that next level.
100%. Like, gosh, what a masterclass against Vic Schaefer. Like, on his home court. Like,
I could fully see like Jeff Walz somehow getting this Louisville team that no one's really said much about all year long to a Final Four at this point. Like, I think that's something that's very much in the cards all of a sudden.
I mean, yeah, I would be afraid of them. I'm afraid of both these teams. I think it's like I the only team I'm not afraid of is Colorado, and I'll go on the record and say that. Like, you know, that they end up winning 2 games and going to a Final Four. Wow.
Yeah.
I'll come to Boulder and admit I was wrong. But still, I think there's a case to be made that 3 of these teams can make a Final Four here. And I think I lean mostly on Iowa and Louisville.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably one of those two, but if it's Ole Miss, I won't be surprised, to be fair.
All right. To me, I feel like our first game on Saturday morning, barring something miraculous, I don't see a way that Notre Dame stays close here.
Yeah, I'm impressed with what Notre Dame has done so far. I think we should leave with that because I would not have put them in a Sweet 16 without Olivia Miles. So kudos to them in terms of getting, the win over Utah State, I think was still expected, but the win over Mississippi State was a good win to get there. But yeah, I think barring some kind of horrid output from Maryland is going to advance to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland looks so good right now. Like, kind of clicking on all cylinders. They let Arizona back in it for a little bit in that first half, and then the second half, it was just Diamond Miller taking over. She's playing probably her best basketball of the season. But yeah, credit to Notre Dame. I think I texted you like who beats Mississippi State when they're making 60% of their threes. Like I didn't blame Creighton for that loss. It's like
right. They didn't hit anything, and Mississippi State hit everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mississippi State, I think, holding them to 48 points. I mean, they were up 10 in the late in the third. So, I don't know. I don't see it. Playing freshmen significant minutes too. Yeah, that's my analysis. But I guess my question is there a way outside of Maryland just shooting bad that Notre Dame can win this game, or something they can expose with Maryland?
Maybe just like Lauren Ebo having a really good game in the post could make it interesting. And I don't know that Maryland necessarily has the best like low post defense, and I could see a player like Ebo being able to kind of score at will some, but I still don't know that that's going to be enough. And I don't think we've seen her go off and score 25 points this year. Like I don't think that's the type of player that she's been for Notre Dame. So I don't necessarily think she's going to transform into that player in 4 days.
And if you are Brenda Fries, would you? I mean, we've seen them play a 2-3 zone quite a bit against teams that don't necessarily get a lot of scoring output from the three, and a team that's missing Olivia Miles and Dara Mabry, and I think they only hit 3 threes, scoring 82 points in the first round. I think they maybe hit 4 in the second round. Is that something you would consider?
Yeah, probably. I don't think this team without those pieces is going to make a whole lot of 3-point shots. So I think the easiest way to defend them is to pack it in inside a little bit and make it even harder for them to go inside and try to force them to hit threes. And then maybe you adjust if they start hitting them. But like you said, they haven't hit them. They don't have the pieces that they want taking those shots right now.
I feel more confident like talking to you. I feel really great about Maryland. Really great. And so the next matchup, we saw it earlier in the year. One of the most annoying games I've ever watched. That fourth quarter took like an hour
8 years.
because UCLA down 12 was still trying to foul. It was so annoying. South Carolina, UCLA. UCLA looked fantastic for 3 quarters, I'd say, against OU.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in the third. I liked it because I was on OU, but not great. I mean, Chris Osborne went to the free throw line a ton of times. It's 36 points is 36 points. But UCLA, they were leading South Carolina at half last year.
Yeah, at the half, they were actually up 2 in the fourth quarter, I think, at one point, and then kind of gave it away down the stretch. I think this one could get interesting. I don't know that it's necessarily going to, because I think South Carolina has played them once and is probably going to make some adjustments to how they played them last time. But I do think it could be interesting. One thing that UCLA does really well is rebound on the offensive glass. South Carolina also does that. So they both kind of score a lot of their points on the offensive glass, and not a lot of teams can maybe keep up with South Carolina in that regard, but UCLA has the potential to. I think they were only like 2 points shy of South Carolina in second chance points in that first matchup, so they were able to kind of keep up with them there, which is, I think, a big piece of like hanging around with South Carolina is being able to match them in that regard. I think UCLA also has to hit threes to make this interesting, though. You're going to need Chris Osborne to step on and hit some threes. I guess the one thing that maybe favors UCLA a little bit is that first matchup was that close, and they rely so heavily on freshmen in this UCLA team. They've got like five freshmen that play significant minutes, so those players are a lot more experienced. They couldn't necessarily pull it out down the stretch in that matchup at South Carolina back in November, but I think those players are going to be a little bit more ready for the moment going into this one. I still think South Carolina is going to win it, but I think you can at least see the path where UCLA keeps it close, which is maybe more than we could say in the first 2 games for South Carolina.
Well, do you think they keep it close?
I don't know. I think if they hit threes, yes, but they have to hit threes. And UCLA, I feel like, is a streaky 3-point shooting team. Sometimes they shoot really well from 3, like they did in that matchup, I think, against Stanford in the Pac-12 tournament where they won. Sometimes they don't. I don't know. I think it ends up being decided by under 20 points. How close it is to 20 versus like 5, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the spread on this game, I think, is 17 or 18, is what the market thinks this game is going to end in a 17-point margin. But yeah, I mean, I think Dawn probably knows what UCLA is planning.
Yeah.
Second half they turned it on, but yeah, it's doable. But I don't see an outcome where UCLA wins outright by any means. So
Yeah, I think I would be really surprised if that happens. I think a handful of things probably go wrong for South Carolina if that happens. I think really this South Carolina team losing any time before the Final Four would be shocking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's get into Elite Eight. Before I say that, it's crazy to me that South Carolina has already beat like 6 of these teams that are in the Sweet 16, 6 of the 15 teams. So it's like they've already seen so many, but yeah. So in our eventual what's this Greenville 2 Elite Eight, we would have LSU and Villanova.
Wait, we didn't do the UConn bracket yet.
Oh my God! Thank you. Thank you so much. I just you think South Carolina, you think the end of the world, you know. I appreciate you. Okay. Starting with Ohio State, UConn. I'm gonna give my thoughts because, you know, you, Megan. I do think there's a world where Ohio State wins this game. It's going to take a near perfect 40 minutes to beat this UConn team at the level that they are playing at. And I think the probability of an Ohio State win is, to me, like under 10% right now, because I don't think we've seen Ohio State play a great, you know, I haven't seen them play a great 40 minutes in a while, because I wouldn't say that North Carolina game was great. JMU, they turned it on the second half, and they got, you know, one of the worst beatings I've ever seen in Iowa, and then they played a great second half against Indiana and came back in a wild win. But UConn just looks like a machine again, and scoring in all different types of ways. And it's not just like AZ Fudd being back, but like Aaliyah's cuts look fantastic. Lou is hitting. Nika's hitting, you know, halftime, half court buzzer beaters. Like the vibes are excellent in Stores.
Yeah. The vibes are very good in Stores right now. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think there's a path for Ohio State to win this, but like you said, I think they would have to execute for 40 minutes, which we haven't seen them do in a while. I think if you give up a 15-point lead to UConn in the first half, they're not coming back from that. Like UConn's not gonna let you come back from that.
No, it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah. For them to have a chance to win it, they're gonna have to hit threes, and then they're gonna have to turn UConn over with the press. I think that they would maybe have a better chance if this was like a second game of the weekend thing that you had 2 days to prepare for. Unfortunately, I think you've now got a situation where like UConn's got 5 days to prepare for the press, and everyone knows that's what Ohio State's going to run. So I think they're going to be ready for it. I think that's what happens when you have a coaching staff like UConn has. And then, like you said, UConn looks really good right now. I think the thing that's going to be really good for them is the post in this game, because if once you break that press, the post defense for Ohio State is just not great. And like Aaliyah Edwards and Dorothy Uhas are both playing at a really, really high level right now, and especially Aaliyah. And if they're able to get her the ball inside, I don't think she's going to have a lot of trouble being able to score in the lane.
Yeah, I see no issues with the UConn scoring 1,000 points in this game. You know, like it's I haven't really been impressed with, I mean, like Ohio State's half court defense in a long time. Mm-hmm. Occasionally they'll, you know, step up and make stops when it counts. But like Deja Kelly went out late in the fourth. And I think UNC was down 9, and North Carolina took the lead late, like without Deja on the floor. disgusting.
Yeah, I turned that game off when she got hurt because I was like, oh, they're up like 12. Deja Kelly's out. This is over. I'll go drive to Stores now. And then I like got to Stores and I was like, how did they only win that by like 2 points?
All right. So yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty aligned here, and we're taking UConn.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
so
what we got? Virginia Tech, Tennessee. This one is interesting to me.
So what they played earlier this year, but what Horston and Rakea didn't play?
I think Horston played, but Rakea Jackson did not play in that matchup.
You got two teams that are playing like pretty excellent. Georgia Amore's shooting incredibly. Kayla Trainer shooting excellent. And then Tennessee, their entire team like cannot miss lately. But this will be easily the best defense they've seen since South Carolina. And I think that's what Virginia Tech probably wants to do, is have a really extremely slow-paced game and just essentially work inside, get Kitley as many touches as possible, let Amore cook when she can. But it's hard to say that this Tennessee team, who has won by almost 40 in both games, like a total of 70 or 82 points. It's has to be the biggest. Well, maybe UConn's close, but biggest margin so far. I think I don't want it to be Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be, though.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup because there are two very different teams. You've got Virginia Tech, like you said, going to go inside to Kitley, and then you've got Amore on the perimeter. And then Tennessee, it's so much about those two wings and Jordan Horston and Rakea Jackson, and they run so much through the two of them. It's a very different style. There's two things that make me lean Tennessee here. It's one, I think Virginia Tech's defense is good, but I think Horston and Rakea Jackson are hard players to guard for any team just because of their size and the way they play and the way they move on the floor. And then I do wonder about like how sustainable Virginia Tech's perimeter shooting is, and if they have an off night there, if it would cost them. And then if they're also guarding Amore with more size than she's used to, is that going to be enough to disrupt her?
I'm thinking of it from another perspective also, is like, can the supporting cast of Tennessee, who has played fantastic in these first two rounds and against LSU for sure. Don't know about South Carolina. That game was really never. I don't think it was ever. Yeah, but like they've been playing extremely well. So I think I do lean Tennessee, but my heart is with Virginia. Virginia, just would love to see. I'd love to see a Virginia Tech UConn matchup. I'd like it better than Tennessee UConn. I think Virginia Tech has a better chance against UConn. I could be wrong, but
I actually kind of disagree on that because I think Virginia Tech and UConn, the way they play is a lot more similar, which I think favors UConn a little bit in that, like, if you're similar but better. Whereas Tennessee is much different.
I guess because I've seen it before, I just don't want to see it again.
That's fair. That part is fair. I think it would be nice to see something different. I think somewhere like the people that made this bracket and the ratings gods, though, are very happy that they might get a UConn Tennessee Elite Eight.
Yeah. Very, very sad for no Stanford versus Caitlin Clark, but all right, we'll jump to our Elite Eight picks. We would have Villanova facing off against LSU. I'll let you start because I think I'm pretty firm on where I'm at there.
Yeah, I think that will be an interesting game. I'm gonna pick Villanova because I'm not gonna put Kim Mulkey in my Final Four. I just can't do it on principle, and I will be sad if it happens. But in terms of like analyzing that matchup a little bit more, I think Villanova is gonna have a hard time with Angel Reese. I don't think they necessarily have the low post defense to handle her well. I think Dulcie at times has been really good. I think we've seen her play really good defense on Aaliyah Edwards some this year. We've seen her rebound well, but she also is just so foul trouble prone. And if they can, she didn't even play very much in that Florida Gulf Coast game because she was in such foul trouble. And if they don't have her on the floor, I think that's going to be trouble in that matchup. I mean, I still think Maddie's going to get hers, but they're going to need, I think it's going to be like Maddie gets hers and Angel gets hers. And then it comes down to like whose supporting cast does more.
Yeah, if LSU D's up like they can, I think it's. I mean, we've seen Villanova's defense be phenomenal too, though. Yeah, it's a great matchup. Honestly, I would love to see it. Although I'd love to see Utah in there, but yeah, I think on first glance I'll pick LSU just to disagree, and just because of the size. Like Dulcie gets in foul trouble, it's kind of a nightmare scenario because then you're having Maddie trying to. I mean, Angel Reese is going to get to the free throw line at least 10 times, on average. So, since we're not going past this right now, we can both just disagree and say that one of us picked LSU and one of us picked Nova.
Yep.
All right. So then we'd have Louisville and Iowa. I think for the narrative, I want Louisville. I'd love to see Jeff Waltz get back with a team that should not be in the Final Four. But the way that Louisville is playing and with the tempo and everything, I think that kind of favors Iowa. Not saying that he wouldn't adjust, but I think that's when Louisville looks their best is when they can get out and push it. And you're not playing against, I mean, Iowa's essentially like a better offensively talented Drake, in my opinion, with one of the best post players in the country, and Caitlin Clark. So I think Iowa wins, but I think it's somewhat close.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting matchup because, like you said, like if you're gonna have a track meet, there's no team in the country that's better at a track meet than Iowa. But also, will Louisville adjust and slow down the pace and kind of lock it in on defense? I think we saw them lock it in a little bit more on defense. I mean, granted, like Texas also just can't shoot the ball, but they did lock it in on defense a little bit more in that Texas game. And I think we've seen in that first matchup, like that, or the second round matchup with Iowa, like that defense, an intense defense can frustrate them and kind of get them out of what they're trying to do. And I think particularly frustrate Caitlin Clark. And I think that's the key to, like, if you're going to beat this Iowa team, you've got to get Caitlin Clark out of her element.
Yeah. But
I agree. I kind of think, like, yeah, I don't want to put Iowa in the Final Four because I've been so adamant that their defense, like, can't get them to the Final Four with, like, that bad of defense. But, like, you look at this bracket and now that, like, the 1, 3, and the 4 have lost, you're kind of like if you can't get to a Final Four with this Iowa team in this bracket, what are you doing? Like,
exactly.
I kind of think it's going to be Iowa, but yeah. I think, like, if you don't get there, like, you got to raise some questions about, like, what's going on, like, coaching-wise. I don't know. Like, if you can't take this team there, I think that's maybe too bold of a take, but, like, with the setup that they have, like, you got to make a Final Four this year.
Well,
I know.
If they don't, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll stick down here on the right. So we'd have UConn against Tennessee, part 2. I think it's probably closer than the first matchup, but
I agree. I still think UConn wins. Yeah, but I think it's closer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean UConn, God, I think they have now like the best path to a national championship, in my opinion. I mean, I'd rather be in their shoes right now than South Carolina's, to be honest. Like
Well, you've
Tennessee
got UCLA. Yeah.
does not scare me like Maryland.
UCLA and Maryland. Yeah, UCLA and Maryland. I agree. I think those are harder matchups for South Carolina than Ohio State and Tennessee or Virginia Tech are for UConn. That's fair.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then I think LSU,
got
UConn, like yeah.
that would be. I can't will that matchup to happen because I don't want it to happen. But yeah, I do like UConn's odds and that kind of matchup.
But it'd be sweet to knock Kim out, right?
Fair, but I just rather not get there.
I mean, it's got to be hard to beat a team 4 times. What if Maddie Seegers knocks you out? That's like your own people, you know?
That's fair. Yeah, it is hard to beat a team 4 times. Actually, I think that Villanova matchup would scare me for UConn more than the LSU one would because, like you said, it's really hard to beat a really good team 4 times.
Yeah.
I still think Gino could probably do it, but I do think it's difficult to do.
No, I think easier. It's not. I think LSU scares me more just because of like the newness of it. But
yeah,
I'd say like this UConn team is different than the team that played Villanova 3 times.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think they've. Well, maybe the team that played them in the Big East tournament pretty similar
until the fourth quarter.
Until the fourth quarter, they seem to have figured that part out in these last couple games. But yeah, agreed. But yeah, a UConn Tennessee matchup, I see it being closer than the original one. I think Tennessee will play better, but at the same time, I think UConn's better than UConn was in that matchup too. They have AZ back. AZ seemed actually back in that Baylor game. I know we're not supposed to be talking about we're supposed to be the preview, not the recap, but AZ fun
gotta look back to go forward.
Yeah. So I mean she put that UConn team on her back in that third quarter against Baylor. Outscored Baylor by herself in the third quarter. It's pretty insane. That's what
it's so casual to drop that. Yeah. Also, I thought Baylor was like essentially like playing at home with how well they shot. They shot better at Stores than for 6 quarters. Or no, not the first quarter in the first game, but for 5 quarters essentially.
What did they? I think they made 12 threes. 12 threes against Alabama, 11 threes against UConn, but they like have averaged like 6 made threes a game this season. It's like something.
And they went 12 for 14. Like they scored 4 points in the first quarter against Alabama, and then like just unreal. Like could not miss. But shout out Baylor. We love you, but you're gone. Okay. The matchup that like I love, and like granted, I understand the odds are completely against it, but I would love to see, and not because I don't like South Carolina, I just love unexpected things happening. And to me, there's a clear path where Maryland can win this game. Down by 6 in Columbia earlier this year, no Diamond Miller. The 2-3 worked like a charm for a half until South Carolina made some outside shots and then just dominated the O boards. But Maryland is absolutely rolling. To me, it's compared to other matchups that South Carolina's had all year. And in this tournament, there's a 10% chance, in my opinion, that Maryland wins this game.
10% is probably fair. I don't think I would go any higher than 10%. I think not having Diamond Miller in that first matchup, it's a lot different than that original matchup that they played earlier this season. And I do think Maryland has at times played their best basketball. I still think we've seen it like kind of come and go. Like I thought in that win where they like beat Iowa handedly like right before the Big Ten tournament, we saw like Maryland defense look better than Maryland defense has probably ever looked. And then they went to the Big Ten tournament and that defense was nowhere to be found. So they still struggle with consistency. And I think they need like the Maryland team that plays the really good defense and is scoring well and has Diamond Miller to have that 10% chance of winning versus South Carolina. I think if they bring that team, then yeah, this can get interesting, but they got to bring that team. And I think that's the first step because we don't see it consistently.
So who's your pick?
I'm going South Carolina. I really don't. If South Carolina is going to lose, I think it's going to be in the Final Four of the national championship. I don't think it's going to be in the regional.
Yeah, I'm taking Maryland.
Yeah. All right.
we've seen how it goes. We've seen how it goes when I pick a big upset in the past in the first 2 rounds. I can't go 0 for 4. Well, I definitely could. Either way. All right. Well, Megan, this was a blast. I'm excited. I'm sure I'll be messaging you throughout Friday and Saturday about how frustrating I am or how frustrating it is when a team I want to perform isn't performing. But yeah, and then so what? Next time we talk, we'll see you in.
We'll probably be in Dallas.
We'll be in person. Yeah.
So yeah, everything after this week is probably going to be in-person stuff in Dallas next week, which is exciting for sure.
Yeah, and if you're still listening, Calvin, thanks for hopping on for 5 minutes. We enjoyed it. All right, thanks everybody.